Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, dear devotees, please accept my humble obeisances. All glories to Srila Prabhupada. Welcome to this morning's Srimad Bhagavatam class. It's from Canto 2, which is entitled The Cosmic Manifestation, Chapter 6, Purusha Shukta Confirmed. And this morning we're doing text 19, and as time permits, we may do text 20. So without further ado, we'll start the class. Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari, Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari, Gopi Janavallabha Girivadadari, Jaya Gopi Janavallabha Girivadadari, Yashodanandana Vrajajanaranjana, Yashodanandana Vrajajanaranjana, Jamunatira Vanachari, Jamuna Tira Vanachari, Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Vihari, Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Vihari, Gopi Janavallabha Girivadadari, Jaya Gopi Janavallabha Girivadadari, Yashodanandana Vrajajanaranjana, Yashodanandana Vrajajanaranjana, Jamunatira Vanachari, Jamuna Tira Vanachari, Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Vihari, Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Vihari, Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Vihari, Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Vihari. Jayam Vishnupad Paramahansa Parivājakacārya Astottara Satasisimadis Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Śrīla Prabhupada Ki Jai. Jayam Vishnupad Paramahansa Parivājakacārya Astottara Satasisimadis Divine Grace Śrīla Bhaktivedanta Saraswati Thakur Maharaj Prabhupada Ki Jai. Ananta Koti Vaishnavinda Ki Jai. Namacharya Sri Haridas Thakur Ki Jai. ISKCON founder Charya Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. Prem se kaho Sri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Sri Advaita Gadadhar Sivasari Gaur Bhaktavinda Ki Jai. Shri Shri Radha Krishna Gopa Gopinath Swami Kund Radha Kund Giri Govardhan Ki Jai. Vrindavan Dham Ki Jai. Mathura Dham Ki Jai. Navadvip Dham Ki Jai. Jagannath Puri Dham Ki Jai. Jagannath Swami Ki Jai. Ganga Mayi Ki Jai, Jamuna Mayi Ki Jai, Tulsi Devi Ki Jai, Bhakti Devi ki jai, Hare Krishna Mahamantra ki jai, Samaveta Bhaktavinda ki jai, Nitai Gaura Premanande, Hari Hari Bo. All glories to the assembled devotees, Hare Krishna. All glories to the assembled devotees, Hare Krishna. All glories to the assembled devotees, Hare Krishna. All glories to the lotus feet of Sri Sri Guru and Gauranga Gauri Prabhupada. Namo Vishnu Padaya Krishna Krishnaaya Bhutale Sri Madhava Bhakti Deva Swami Nityananda. Namaste Krishna Padaya Prabhupada Sita Namaste Gaura Karva Shakti. Narayana Namaskritya Naronchaivam Narottamam Devim Saraswati Vyasam Tato Jayam Vijirayat Nascha Prayesva Bhadresu Nityam Bhagavata Sevaya Bhagavatu Tamasloke Bhaktir Bhavati Naistiki Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Hare Krishna. Jai, accept our humble obeisances, dear devotees, all glories to Srila Prabhupada. So Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 2, Chapter 6, Text 19. Pādeṣu sarva-bhūtāni puṁsaḥ sthiti-pado viduḥ amṛtaṁ kṣemam abhayaṁ tri-mūrdhno dhāyi mūrdhasu. Pādeṣu sarva-bhūtāni puṁsaḥ sthiti-pado viduḥ amṛtaṁ kṣemam abhayaṁ tri-mūrdhno dhāyi mūrdhasu. Pādeṣu sarva-bhūtāni puṁsaḥ sthiti-pado viduḥ amṛtaṁ kṣemam abhayaṁ tri-mūrdhno dhāyi mūrdhasu. Hare Krishna. Please chant.
pādeṣu sarva-bhūtāni puṁsaḥ sthiti-pado viduḥ amṛtaṁ kṣemam abhayaṁ tri-mūrdhno adhāyi mūrdhasu. Hare Krishna.
pādeṣu sarva-bhūtāni puṁsaḥ sthiti-pado viduḥ amṛtaṁ kṣemam abhayaṁ tri-mūrdhno dhāyi mūrdheṣu.
pādeṣu sarva-bhūtāni puṁsaḥ sthiti-pado viduḥ amṛtaṁ kṣemam abhayaṁ tri-mūrdhno dhāyi mūrdhasu. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Anyone else?
Pādēṣu sarva-bhūtāni puṁsaḥ sthiti-pado viduḥ amṛtaṁ kṣemam abhayaṁ tri-mūrdhno dhāyi mūrdhasu.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Anyone else? All right, let's do it forward. Pādeṣu in the 1/4. Sarva, all. Bhūtāni, living entities. Puṁsaḥ, of the Supreme Person. Sthiti-pado, the reservoir of all material opulence. Viduḥ, you should know. Amṛtaṁ, deathlessness. Kṣemam, all happiness, free from the anxiety of old age, diseases, etc. Abhayaṁ, fearlessness. Tri-mūrdhno, beyond the 3 higher planetary systems. Dhāyi, exist. Mūrdhasu, beyond the material coverings. Translation by His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada ki jai. The Supreme Personality of Godhead is to be known as the supreme reservoir of all material opulences by the 1/4 of his energy in which all the living entities exist. Deathlessness, fearlessness, and freedom from the anxieties of old age and disease exist in the kingdom of God, which is beyond the 3 higher planetary systems and beyond the material coverings. Purport by Srila Prabhupada. Out of the total manifestations of the Sandhini energy of the Lord, 1/4 is displayed in the material world, and 3/4 are displayed in the spiritual world. The Lord's energy is divided into 3 component parts, namely Sandhini, Samvit, and Hladini. In other words, he is a full manifestation of existence, knowledge, and bliss. In the material world, such a sense of existence, knowledge, and pleasure is meagerly exhibited. And all living entities who are minute parts and parcels of the Lord are eligible to relish such consciousness of existence, knowledge, and bliss very minutely in the liberated stage. Whereas in the conditioned state of material existence, they can hardly appreciate what is the factual, existential, cognizable, and pure happiness of life. The liberated souls who exist in far greater numerical strength than those souls in the material world can factually experience the potency of the above-mentioned Sandhini, Samvit, and Hladini energies of the Lord in the matter of deathlessness, fearlessness, and freedom from old age and disease. In the material world, the planetary systems are arranged in 3 spheres called tri-lokyās, or Swarga, Martya, and Patala. And all of them constitute only 1/4 of the total Sandhini energy. Beyond that is the spiritual sky, where the Vaikuntha planets exist beyond the coverings of 7 material strata. In none of the 3 local planetary systems can one experience the status of immortality, full knowledge, and full bliss. The upper 3 planetary systems are called sattvic planets because they provide facilities for a long duration of life and relative freedom from disease and old age, as well as the sense of fearlessness. The great sages and saints are promoted beyond the heavenly planets to Mahaloka. But that also is not a place of complete fearlessness, because at the end of one kalpa, the Mahaloka is annihilated and the inhabitants have to transport themselves to still higher planets. Yet even on these planets, no one is immune to death. There may be a comparative extension of life, expansion of knowledge, and sense of full bliss, but factual deathlessness, fearlessness, and freedom from old age, diseases, etc. are possible only beyond the material spheres of the coverings of the material sky. Such things are situated on the head, dhāyi, mūrdhasu. Oma gyanati virandasya gyana gyana shalakaya chakshu umbilitam dina tasma shri gurave namaha shri chaitanya manobhistam stapitam dina bhutale swayam rupa kadamayam dadati swapadantikam nama om vishnu padaya krishna peshnaya bhutale srimati bhakti vedanta swaminiti namini namaste saraswati devi gaura bhani pacharine nirvishesha sunyavadi paschatya shatarine Namo Mahabharanyaya Krishna Prema Padayate Krishnaya Krishna Chaitanya Namni Gurachise Namaha Jaya Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Sri Advaita Gadadha Shiva Shari Gaura Bhaktavinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram Ram Hare Hare. The English translation again. The Supreme Personality of Godhead is to be known as the supreme reservoir of all material opulences by the 1/4 of his energy in which all the living entities exist. Deathlessness, fearlessness, and freedom from the anxieties of old age and disease exist in the kingdom of God, which is beyond the 3 higher planetary systems and beyond the material coverings, right? So, Hare Krishna, Srila Prabhupada ki jai. So, this is a description, as the translation amply shows us. It has to do with the material energy, and the spiritual energy and the division of the energies of the Lord by his own will. Basically, 3/4, or as Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur Maharaj likes to put, the tri-quadrantal, 3/4 of the energy of the Lord is basically this spiritual world. 1/4, or Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur calls it uniquadrantal, 1/4 is the material part. So we are at this point in the material energy, and we can live a material life or a spiritual life as we like. We have some minute independence. If we live a material life, then we're going to be basically going through the cycle of birth and death, in the middle of which there are old age and disease. And if we take a spiritual life, take that seriously, then we will be taken from the material world to the spiritual world, where life is eternal and full of knowledge and full of bliss. Now, with these two, we have a choice. We can either stay in the material energy and go through a life of repeated birth and death, reincarnation, going into different bodies, and also going through old age, which has its own set of difficulties. But the spiritual energy and the spiritual world lifestyle does not involve any old age, does not involve death. And since everything is supplied and everyone is loving, then everyone is in the highest happiness they can ever have. So it seems like anybody, with a little functioning brain, never mind even the best ones that we have, could make a simple choice that I'll do the spiritual over the material. Now, that's a choice we all have made. Otherwise, you won't be on here trying to listen to spiritual discourses. So that is the best choice. Still, this is Srimad Bhagavatam, and Srimad Bhagavatam goes into detail explaining everything. The personality of Godhead, as far as the material energy is concerned, he is still known as the supreme reservoir. Everything comes from him. Lord Brahma says, sarva-karana-karanam, he's the cause of all causes. Without Krishna, the word existence can't even be used. There's nothing that exists without Krishna. The material energy is also eternal, but it has a cycle that's different from the spiritual energy. The material energy goes through a stage of appearance and disappearance. From Mahavishnu's pores, the material universes come to be. And he also establishes time. And then there is life in each universe with one Lord Brahma. And Lord Brahma provides, through the help of Lord Vishnu, Garbhodakshaya Vishnu, the way, provides the varieties, planets and things on and inside the planets, and the demigods that are to take responsibility for different aspects of the material nature, all are appointed by Lord Brahma for each universe. And then Lord Brahma lives for a while, actually by our time, for a very, very long while, especially the one we have here, even in the smaller universe that we're in, which this universe in size is one of the smaller ones. Even with its 4 billion miles diameter, it's still considered one of the smaller ones. Lord Brahma lives 311 trillion years and 40 billion years. So we can't even wrap our minds around it, that kind of time. Trillion is 1 million. 1 trillion is 1 million taken a million times. And he lived 311 of those type of trillion years, plus 40,000 million. So it's obviously mind-boggling for us. But to him, it's 100 years. We also live 100 years, but 100 years based on our time. So time is actually relative. A second of Lord Brahma, according to our time, a second of Lord Brahma is 100,000 years of our time. So he lives a long time, but by the spiritual world, looking at him, all of the universes with his Lord Brahmas, the Lord Brahma's life is like a bubble in an ocean that comes up, and the next time, because of the current of the ocean, it disappears. So spiritual world time is not like that, the way it is here. Because this is set up just for the material world. So there's also deathlessness. There's no death in the spiritual world. There's no fear in the spiritual world. There's no old age in the spiritual world. And there's no disease in the spiritual world. That is the kingdom of God. The seed of Prabhupada is trying to get us to go to. And in the kingdom of God, there's one particular planet that is the farthest from all of the planets, Golok Vrindavan. And there, the relationship with the Supreme Personality of Godhead as Krishna is in several varieties compared to the other Vaikuntha planets where the Lord is worshipped as Narayan in awe and reverence. So Srila Prabhupada wants us to get to the planet that has the greatest variety of relationships. And so we're very fortunate at this time to be present here, even if it's in the material world, still on a planet where so much mercy is being given to those who live here. Lord Chaitanya came almost 540 years ago to show us the way to get back to the spiritual world by simplifying the process, saying you just chant Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Is there a catch? Not really. It's just that we have to be trying to do this with great focus. We talk to each other. And when we are talking to each other, we don't have any problems focusing on what we're speaking and who we're speaking it to. This is normal for everybody. But sometimes when it comes to chanting, then the mind begins to roam. So we have to literally look into why when we're talking to another person, it's easy to focus on what we're saying and also focus on the person we're talking to, even when we're talking on the phone, where we can't see the person, still. We have good focus on that. So the mantra that takes us out of the material world, that we have trouble focusing. Now, see, Prabhupada has also said it, and it is in the 10 offenses that if we're not attentive, that's also considered an offense to the holy name. Because if we're calling Krishna, say we're calling somebody, and we call that person's name, we expect that person to look in our direction. But if we're not focusing on what we're doing and we look somewhere else while we're calling the person's name, and the person is looking at us and we're looking somewhere else, they're going to think, what's wrong with this person? They're trying to call me. They wouldn't even look at me. So we're making a point of how serious it is and how weird it is when we call on the Lord's name and not focus on the Lord. So the mind is a rascal, true enough. It's not like we don't want to focus on the Lord, but sometimes our mind, which is not us, by the way, we are the soul, so the mind plays this kind of game with us. So the more of our senses, the mind is connected to the senses, the more of our senses that we bring into play when we are focusing on, when we are chanting of the Lord, the more focused we will be. And then through that, we will get the blessings from the mantra itself. The mantra is Krishna. Krishna is absolute. So our life here involves death when that is there, but for a devotee, even death is the transition back home, back to the spiritual world. A devotee that takes this process seriously is fearless because they know that they are submitted to the Supreme Personality of Godhead. They surrendered. And when we're surrendered to the most powerful that there is, then anything that could cause fear, we know is going to be handled by the Lord. So then there's no reason to be fearful. And this is how a devotee deals with fear. We also find out that the more we take this bhakti yoga process seriously, the more guidance we get. In this material world, padam padam yati padam natesham, there are difficulties. There's danger in every step. Every time we're on the road, danger is all around us. Somebody makes a mistake and it's boom, crash. The weather changes on us, like in a few days back, the weather kind of sneaked up on us and nobody was expecting any snow, but all of a sudden, small amount of snow started falling. And it seemed like one of those flurries that we can ignore, but it wasn't. And it accumulated just enough to make, with the temperatures, the roads slippery. And accidents were all over the place. So anything can happen, but the Lord is always protective of his devotees. He's equal to everyone, but because devotees turn their attention to Krishna, so then he's especially favorable to devotees. And he always very much is looking at us going home. He has actually given us a mercy by coming himself to every single body that is a living entity in the form of Paramatma to guide us. But Paramatma does not dictate what we should do. We dictate what we want to do. Paramatma just guides because of our free will. Then, if we want to turn and get advice from the Lord and guidance from the Lord, then it's all set up. The Lord guides from within, the spiritual master guides from without. And so everything that it takes, more than what it takes to take us back to Godhead, has been provided. We just have to want to do it. And the only energy we need to put in is the energy of seriousness. That's all. Practically everyone that preaches, that is knowing about this wonderful opportunity that's there, says, take it seriously. Sri Prabhupada says, take advantage of it. Once you take advantage of it. So the Lord's energy, the eternal energy, we talked about the material energy also being eternal, but it's eternal, partly coming out into existence and then partly going into the body of Mahavishnu. So it doesn't disappear, it doesn't cease to exist, but it goes in and out of Mahavishnu. Whereas the spiritual energy is always, the spiritual world is always existing, it's always there. That manifestation never changes. It doesn't disappear and come again. No, all of the spiritual planets are there. They are much bigger than these universes, even the biggest ones, the material universes. So we have to go home for the happiness and deathlessness and full knowledge to come. And Srila Prabhupada explains this in terms of the energies. Sandini is the eternal energy of the Lord. Samvit is the energy of cognizance, the all-knowing. And Ladini is the energy that describes the bliss or the highest happiness. Sandini, Samvit, and Ladini. It's full manifestation of existence, knowledge, and bliss. So, Srila Prabhupada explains that when a person feels by seriously taking Krishna consciousness as one's life and soul, when a person begins to feel happy, they would relate a little more to this whole idea of eternality of existence, knowledge, and bliss, but in a very minute way. On the liberated stage, we are aware that life is supposed to be eternal. And that those who are taking Krishna consciousness seriously are headed towards eternality, real eternality. The soul is eternal, but the body is not. That's the difference. So we have a body in the material world, then the body itself won't be eternal. But a person who is liberated understands that the soul is eternal and its home is in the spiritual world. And even though we haven't attained it yet, because of being engaged in the material body, that time will come where we'll go back. It's also explained by Srila Prabhupada that the spiritual world, living entities are experiencing the full effect of Sandini, Sambit, and Dadini, the eternality, cognizance, and also the Dadini Shakti, the bliss Shakti. And there was a little bit more explanation about the planetary systems in the material world. It's called tri-lokyās. Svargaloka is a higher planetary system. Matyaloka is where we are at, the middle planetary system. We're one of the planets in the middle planetary system. And Pataloka is the ones below the middle planetary systems. They constitute 1/4 of the total energy of existence, which is a Sandini energy. All of the material world constitutes 1/4 of the Sandini energy of the Lord, or the eternality energy of the Lord. In the spiritual sky, we talked about this immortality, full knowledge, and full bliss. And that is 3/4. But in the material energy, there are upper planetary systems. People live for a long time. We talked about Lord Brahma's own life being 300 trillion plus years. There are some that live millions of years. There are some that live billions of years, like Mahaloka. Life there, some demigods live 4,320,000,000 years. 4,320,000,000. That happens to be one day of Lord Brahma, though. Just one day of his 12 hours. So Bhrigu Muni, for example, the demigod lives for that period of time, and he's living in Mahaloka. But then even there, when Lord Brahma is getting ready to leave, to die, then all the planets are also destroyed. They're annihilated. Now, for his daytime, this is Lord Brahma, he lives that 4,320,000,000 years. And the nighttime is also the same 12 hours of his time, the same number of years. In the nighttime, then the middle planetary systems and the Svarga, the heavenly planets, and also the lower planetary systems, they're all annihilated. They're destroyed. The living entities at that time go into the body of Garbhodakshaya Vishnu for that night of Lord Brahma. And Lord Brahma's abode, Satyaloka or Brahmaloka, that is not destroyed at nighttime. Lord Brahma is still there. And then the next day, he creates the part of the universe that got annihilated. And the living entities come out again, and they continue life based on whatever their desires are, their karma, that is. So that's the way things are set up. And it's best to be in the spiritual world, and Srila Prabhupada is preparing us for that place which is called adhāyi mūrdhasu, existing beyond the material energy. So with the time that's left now, we're going to go spend a little bit of time on text 20. So Canto 2, chapter 6, text 20. The English translation is the spiritual world, still talking about the same thing as the text 19. Spiritual world consists of 3/4 of the Lord's energy, is situated beyond this material world. And it especially is meant for those who will never be reborn. There's no birth there. Others who are attached to family life and who do not follow strictly celibacy vows, they must live within these material worlds. So this text is actually talking about the spiritual world, which is 3/4 of the Lord's energy. It's situated beyond the material world, which was talked about in the previous text. It's especially meant for those who go back to Godhead and don't get born again. They don't return to this material world. The overwhelming majority of living entities are in the spiritual world now. 99% plus are in the spiritual world. Less than 1% of those who are of living entities are in the material world. So material world is considered the house of correction. It's considered the house of correction, or jail, quite frankly, because those who are envious of the Lord have wound up here. But there's always the opportunity to go, and in this Kali Yuga, the system has been made very, very, very simple. The chanting of the holy name. So we should hear about Krishna so that we'll always be reminded of Krishna. And we should also chant the holy name of the Lord, because that is Krishna. Krishna is absolute. When we chant, Papa said, Krishna is dancing on our tongues. So in the purport of text 20, Papa says, the climax of the system of Varnashram Dharma, Sanatana Dharma, is expressed here in this particular verse of Srimad Bhagavatam. The highest benefit that can be awarded to any human being is to train him to be detached from sense gratification, especially sex life. Because it's due to sex indulgence that the conditioned life of material existence, it continues, birth after birth. Birth is caused by sex life. So it's because of sex life that life continues like that. And then we get attached to our family members, and we have to be careful. Srila Prabhupada has already said that for devotees, there is no point in having children if you're not going to raise them in Krishna consciousness. Why have more souls come to this material world just to repeat life here, which is already difficult? So we have to help them to get back. And the psychology of a children thing is that you don't force. We have seen those devotees who've tried to force their children to be Krishna consciousness, to be Krishna conscious, the children rebelled. Later on, when they got older, they didn't want to have anything to do with Krishna consciousness. That is a big shame, because then it means they're not leaving to go back to the wonderful planet of Goloka Vrindavan. So basically, we have to just raise children based on what children themselves are like. What are they like? They are playful. Therefore, you bring Krishna consciousness like play to them. Then they can relate to it. It should never, no part of Krishna consciousness should be used as punishment. Never. And you may be surprised to hear that, but I know devotees, I literally know some devotees who did that. They get upset with the child 10 rounds. It's 10, 15 rounds. The child may be starting with only about 3 rounds a day. So then 10 rounds seems like an overwhelming thing. And they know that their parents are using that as punishment. Now, why would they want to get to 16 rounds later on when 10 rounds was something that was negative towards them? So we cannot and we should not use any part of Bhakti Yoga as punishment for children. Just because we know that it takes a little bit of effort for them to get there. So now it's going to be used like punishment. It's very, very, very bad. And people who do that, their children quit Krishna consciousness later. So birth, death, old age, and disease, they are related to the material body. The spirit soul doesn't go to any of that. But as long as the bodily attachment for sensual enjoyment is still there and encouraged, then the individual spirit soul is going to continue the repetition of birth and death because of this material body. The material body doesn't last. It's like a garment and subject to the law of deterioration. It's going to get old and it's going to just leave and not be functional. So in the Varnashram Dharma, in the ashram side of it, life is started with a brahmachari, a young person, adopting a vow of celibacy and also getting instructions from a spiritual master on how to live life in a spiritual way. So brahmachari life is for students who are to be educated to follow the strict vow of celibacy. So youngsters who've never been involved in sex life, they have no trouble if they start a brahmachari life to stay away from it. You haven't had the experience of it, there's nothing to worry about in terms of just getting too attached to that. Even attached at all to that. Now, the other ashram is the grihastha ashram, married life. But it should be lived in such a way that Krishna consciousness is actually priority in the life of the whole family. Again, this is where it becomes important to understand that in household life, sex indulgence is part of it for having children and not just for sense gratification. The children should be trained in the principles of life of a brahmachari. Initially, they should be trained like that. And even later on, when they decide to get married, because of the principles that they have learned from brahmachari life, then it's easier for them to manage their grihastha life when they get married, grihastha life based on, or the household life, I should say, based on Krishna consciousness, and that is grihastha life. Otherwise, it's gṛha-medho life, married life without Krishna consciousness, with just sense gratification being the what people pay attention more to. So this is a way in which children then would be raised properly and they can end this miserable life of material existence. And material existence, no matter which way we cut it, there's misery because there's so many things that are outside our control, especially the weather, especially the fact that there are other entities that live by feeding on us, that we call them germs. They're feeding on us, and they bring disease to us, even though they're just trying to live. Not that they intend to give us, miserable life, but that's their life. So it's difficult in the material world. Once one person sees it that way, then they decide to take it very seriously, the whole idea of getting out of the material world and going to a spiritual world where everything is a lot easier. Not only to obtain, but life is full of love all around us. Now these days, we have strangers, people we don't know. There is no stranger in the spiritual world. Remember, all living entities have full knowledge, so they know everybody, and everybody is loving. This is the world that Srila Prabhupada is trying to get us to go back to. We were from there, and now we have to go back to that. So Srila Prabhupada explains more in the purport that the pious householders and fallen yogis and fallen transcendentalists, if we're not able to take the process seriously, but are actually good persons at heart, those are the people that get promoted to the higher material planets, which is part of the 1/4 of the energy of the Lord, but they won't get into the spiritual world. If we don't take the process seriously, the chances are, because we have good pious credits, then we'll go to the higher planetary systems. There's greater sense gratification. There's greater lifetime compared to here. As I said, some people live for millions, some people live for billions of years. And the thing is, though, after that time, they'll have to come back to this earthly planet again to continue where they left off in their spiritual life. But in their material life, they'll have to start as babies again, go into the womb, go through the whole process, start again in the ABCs and all of that. Learn to crawl and learn to walk and start all over again. And then by the mercy of the Lord, the person is introduced to Krishna consciousness. But who knows what kind of age? We have Satya Yuga, Treta Yuga, Dwapara Yuga, and Kali Yuga. Who knows what kind of age a person is going to be born into and what life will be like at that time? Material life is always a struggle, one way or the other. So it's better to go back. So one of the things that would help us is if we don't get so bogged down with thoughts about sense gratification, especially sex life, then we have a much better chance of going back to the spiritual world. So Lord Chaitanya was very strict about that when he was here, because he came, he had his internal reasons that had to do with Srimati Radharani, but his external reason had to do with helping us to develop love for Godhead by chanting the holy name and doing bhakti yoga, which he was doing. So he was showing us. Some people didn't even know he was the Supreme Lord himself. And he was in a different color, golden color, the color like Srimati Radharani. But apart from the color, he looked just like Krishna, because he was Krishna. So he was very strict, though, when it came to the matter of celibacy. Those who are taking sannyas and those who are brahmacharis, they should observe celibacy. Vanaprastha also should observe celibacy. Vanaprastha is a retired life after married life where the children are grown and the parents are no longer responsible for taking care of them. Vanaprastha life should be devoted more to Krishna consciousness. So there was one of his followers called Chota Haridas. The Lord severely punished him, Lord Chaitanya, because of his failure to observe the vow of celibacy. Now, at that time, the Lord was showing, he was a sannyasi himself, and he was showing how to live a life properly. So the story of Chota Haridas, there was Haridas Thakur. Chota means small Haridas, younger Haridas. So there was a Haridas Thakur who was also an associate of the Lord. And then this other one who was actually serving the Lord directly. When I say the Lord now in Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. So in Antya Lila of Chaitanya Charitamrita in chapter 2, the story is actually explained. We'll go through a short version of it and then open up for questions. So there was the Lord's cook. His name was Bhagavan Acharya. Actually, he was one of the associates of Lord Chaitanya. He wasn't a cook. I have to explain why this whole idea of cook came in. Bhagavan Acharya actually invited Chaitanya Mahaprabhu to come to his house for prasad. And he decided to cook. That's why, I stand corrected, making a mistake that he was a cook. He wasn't a cook. He was one that invited Lord Chaitanya. But that day, he knows how to cook very well. So he decided he was going to prepare rice and various types of vegetables for the Lord. Now, Chota Haridas, he is an associate of the Lord. He has a very beautiful voice, and he used to sing for the pleasure of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. So Bhagavan Acharya called Chota Haridas also to his home and told him, listen, I'm trying to get Lord Chaitanya to come. Looks like he will come. So go to the sister of Sikhi Mahiti. Sikhi Mahiti is also in the Piruvudi of the Lord. And use my name. Go to the sister. The sister is called Madhava Devi. Use my name that Bhagavan Acharya has said I should come get some white rice and just go say like that. So the Chota Haridas went, talked to Madhava Devi, and Madhava Devi is also quite, she's elderly, and she's always performing austerities. So he was advancing devotional service. But somehow, one way or the other, when Chota Haridas got there was some physical attraction. Now, details are not given. Now, you're dealing with the Lord that knows everything. So, of course, he knows everybody's right. It's Paramatma. So, yes, he got the rice. Chota Haridas is also, sometimes I say junior. Chota means junior. So, Junior Haridas got the rice. But there was some other talk that was based on motor passion that happened between the two of them. There was some physical attraction that was there. Now, details of what happened is not known. But remember, Chota Haridas is actually in the ashram knowing that sannyasis are supposed to be very careful. And he's around and serving Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, who himself was a sannyasi. So regardless of the fact that Junior Haridas is a sannyasi or not, he's not. But he has to behave like that, especially when it comes to, anything involving sex life. But he kind of, crossed over the barrier of how much that you relate to a lady. This is an elderly lady, so and she herself was involved in austerity. Still, the conversation was along mode of passion. Junior Haridas brought the rice to Bhagavana. Lord Chaitanya came. Bhagavana cooked at the home, varieties of vegetables and the rice and other preparations, very dear to Lord, all kinds of desserts. So at noontime, Lord Chaitanya comes, the food's been offered, and he took, and he very much appreciated the fine rice. Now, remember, the rice is the one that was Chaitanya Haridas got from Madhava Devi. The Lord commented about it. He asked Bhagavana, where'd you get this nice, fine rice? Then Bhagavana said, yeah, we begged for the rice. And then he said, then Lord Chaitanya said, well, who went to beg for the rice? Of course, Bhagavana knows you don't say something that is not accurate, to put it mildly. So Bhagavana mentioned the name of Junior Haridas, that I sent him to Madhava Devi. So the Lord praised the quality of the rice. He took the prasadam, and then when he went back home to his residence, where he was staying, so he told his personal servant Govinda, from this day forward, don't allow Junior Haridas to come here. I don't want him around me. Junior Haridas heard that he had been ordered not to approach each time Mahaprabhu. He became very morose. But no one knew why Lord Chaitanya had ordered that Junior Haridas not come near him. He wanted to see, Junior Haridas wanted to see the Lord so much. He used to go over where Lord was at. So he had been banned, and he fasted, hoping that the Lord would change his mind. He fasted continuously, 3 days. The rest of the devotees heard about it, and they approached Lord Chaitanya to inquire for him. What is the great offense that Junior Haridas has committed? And why has he been banned like that? The Lord said, I cannot tolerate seeing the face of a person who has accepted the renounced order of life. Okay, so now this is clear. Chaitanya Haridas had in fact accepted the renounced order of life, but who still talks intimately with the woman. The senses are so strong that they try to adhere to the object of the enjoyment. And we have to be careful as sannyasis. This is the point that Lord Chaitanya was making. And he became a little bit intense. He said there are persons with the order of, they've taken the order of sannyasis, and they accept this renounced order of life like monkeys. Now, monkeys are very promiscuous, by the way. They go here and there and engage in sense gratification. And they go after the female type of monkeys. So Chaitanya Mahaprabhu was very, very, very upset about it. He was angry. So the devotees all kept quiet. Next day, the devotees, as compassionate as they are, they approached the lotus feet of the Lord, and now they're submitting an appeal on behalf of Junior Haridas. So he has committed a small offense, therefore, Lord, please be merciful to him. In other words, the devotees are thinking that he didn't go all the way to perform sex act with the Mataji, therefore, he should please be merciful to him. He's been fasting, he's gotten a sufficient lesson. In the future, he won't commit a lesson like that. Chaitanya Mahaprabhu says, my mind is not under my control. It doesn't like to see anyone, the renounced order, who talks intimately with women. So the kind of long story short, what happened was the devotee sent another person, Pavananda Puri, to try to pacify the Lord. That didn't work. So finally, Junior Haridas had to leave. And he left and he did some meditations in the river, but he didn't come out. He drowned himself and left. Now, he actually took a spiritual body by the mercy of Lord Chaitanya. And in this spiritual body, he started relating to the Lord again. So in effect, the Lord forgave him, but externally, he didn't allow this mistake on the part of Junior Haridas to go unpunished. Why? Because Lord Chaitanya was setting the example He was the one setting the example for everyone to follow. He started, he had a school when he was younger. He defeated people who were puffed up. Keshava Kashmir. And then he got older. He took sannyas. He cut his hair. So many things he did. So he wasn't going to allow anyone that was close to him to make a mistake so people can comment about, the reputation of Lord Chaitanya himself. So he didn't allow Jinnah Haridas to be around him. But so this is how it was settled. Jinnah Haridas left his body, but rather than take a body of a ghost necessarily, he took a spiritual body, his regular spiritual body, and without being seen by anyone, he started relating to Lord Chaitanya by singing his very wonderful melodious songs. But on the physical level, everybody realized that Lord Chaitanya did not necessarily forgive Jinnah Haridas, because when you're sannyasi, you don't play with this whole thing that is anywhere remotely related to passion or sex life. So the point is, it has to be taken seriously depending on the ashram that you're in. And this is how we're going to make it back to the spiritual world. And if we don't, then it's going to be a situation of having to repeat another life and another life and another life. So sense gratification doesn't work for us. We have better situations in the spiritual world where our senses will be more than satisfied. And we will be serving the Lord in our own way. It's volunteer. Service to the Lord is not like work the way that I have to be work at this time and I have to come at this. No, it's all by volunteer. To do whatever you want to do in service to the Lord. It's all about love. And sex life is nothing compared to the enjoyment in the spiritual world. In service. It doesn't even come close in terms of the type of bliss and enjoyment that is in the spiritual world. So, yes, we have to take things seriously in our devotional life because it's to our advantage to do that. And especially we have to refrain from things in the mode of passion. Don't be attached to them. The more we give in charity, the more we're able to detach from material energy. And so then we're able to go home at the time when we leave our bodies rather than take another life here. So it's on us how we lead our lives. Shirobhari ki jai. So thank you again for coming in your good numbers to this class. It's always helpful for all of us. We grow nicely that way and take Krishna consciousness seriously. Shirobhari ki jai. So please unmute yourself if you have any comment and if you have any question, if you have any realizations that you want to share, we all can learn from each other in Krishna Katha. Hare Krishna. So any questions or comments? Yeah.
Hare Krishna, please accept my humble obeisances of Srila Prabhupada.
Hare Krishna. Yeah.
One of my takeaways from this class is the importance of rules and regulations. It's a protection for us. I think what happens is we don't realize, and we don't understand the rules and regulations are there to protect us. Mother Gita always uses this example. When she's driving in the car, she will not break the driving rules if there was a police officer in the passenger seat in her car. And, she would always use that example because if a driver is always known to break rules, they will not break the rule if there's a cop sitting in the car. So the rules and regulations are there to protect us from making offenses, because we are fallen conditioned souls. We are not perfect. If we are perfect, then we should not be in the material world, So we are not perfect.
Yes.
So therefore, we need the rules and regulations. And until we learn to follow the rules and regulations, only will we abide by the procedures, naturally. For example, again, going back to the whole driving situation, until the cop is in our car and we learn to abide by the rules, we will become habitual, by nature, that one day the cop will not be in our car and we'll be still able to follow the rules and regulations because we are actually, creatures of habits. We are actually creatures of habits. But it's but we have to develop the right habit, not the wrong habit. But in order to develop the right habit, we need to follow rules and regulations. So I was really appreciating this pastime, how, the Lord is teaching us the importance of rules and regulation, because it is a protection. It's our kavacha. It's our shield, to grow in Krishna consciousness. It's our shield to better understand and become positive, right Vaishnav creatures of habits. So that was my takeaway. Hare Krishna.
Thank you very much for your takeaway in the description. And the very last thing you said, we have to be following these rules so that we become habituated to those rules. The great thing about following those rules is that we become a better person. We just become, we may be thinking, okay, so the rules are there and I'm supposed to follow them because that's what it is for a Vaishnava to do. But actually, it makes us a better person. And you realize that the bad habits are gone and now people can relate to us better, especially people who are good themselves. They would very much like our company. So there's so much to be gained by following these rules and regulations. Those areas where we have difficulty in sense gratification, we have to pray and cry to the Lord for help. If we have some addictions that are connected to sense gratification, we cannot get out of it so easily. But the Lord can do any and everything. Therefore, we take our case first to Srila Prabhupada, pray, because this is the chain of command, to Srila Prabhupada, pray for help, and pray continuously, daily for help. And then you take it one day at a time. Krishna would actually give us special reasons to stay away from sense gratification. And whatever it is, or the arenas that we go that pull us into sense gratification, we have to stop going there. That's the first thing to do. Stop going there. Then you'll have to deal with it. So this is the way, because it is the best way. It makes us better persons. And then to top it off, after we leave this body, we get to go back to a place where there's no reason to be in anxiety anymore. Everything is provided. Hare Krishna. So any other comments or questions? Please unmute yourself. If not, then that's also fine. Thank you very much for all of you for coming on. To keep your attendance up. It's to our great advantage the more that we actually attend class and hear, and it improves our life without a doubt. So everyone have a nice, wonderful Krishna conscious weekend. Vanchakalpatarubhasya kripa sindhubhya eva cha patitanam pavanebhyo vaishnavebhyo namo namaha. Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Thank you again, everybody. Hare Krishna.